This is Hannibal back here with my weekly review of the points I find interesting in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. This is related to another video I just finished on WWE potentially buying TNA. I thought of a couple more things after it finished. There's a New York attorney, Brian Burson, that made the comment maybe they buy it just so Vince McMahon wouldn't buy it when his no compete ends. There's another good reason I thought of to do with that. They're on Netflix now, so their TV deals in Canada, the UK, India, some other countries, there will no longer be WWE on those stations. They're all gonna be on Netflix. So WWE could either let AEW swoop in and take those deals, or they could buy TNA. Because keep in mind, NXT already has a deal with, the CW. They could buy TNA and sell this new TNA WWE league to all those places where that don't have TV, that are gonna lose TV at the end of the year, even here in Canada. So why would you just let AEW swoop in and take those deals if they would even want AEW when WWE probably has existing relationships with most of those partners? Also, you look at all the famous WWE wrestlers that started in TNA, and even I think Abyss is an agent for WWE. They could even put out footage of Abyss and have him talk about it. Like, they've never even, like, gone down that rabbit hole, but all the footage that they'd want from AJ Styles, Ric Flair, Mick Foley, Hulk Hogan. TNA's library is their most valuable asset. It's certainly not their current roster, no offense. They do someone asked me, "Who do they have that I know?" I know they got PCO and Jordan Grace and Matt Hardy. Couldn't they have the transgender wrestler who I can't remember her name. Um, those are the 3. I don't know if Tommy Dreamer's still with them or not, or the last time they used him, but I know he was with them at one point. They don't they would get a huge boost. I don't know how many of those contracts WWE would keep, but they would get a huge boost. The best thing that could happen to TNA would be for WWE to pick them up at this point because it's been dying a slow death for a very long time, and the worst thing that ever happened to that company was putting the men's world title on Tessa Blanchard and then letting her leave the company without anyone beating her. It made their world title valueless. Which, by the way, I might be getting a shoot interview with Tessa Blanchard soon. I might. I've been talking to one of her representatives about it. That would be great. And I know Jack Kilby is interested in possibly using her in Great North Wrestling. So I would like to see that happen as well. All right, so let's get into the rest of this. You guys are all sick of hearing me talk about that. I'm interested in TNA for the first time in a long time. But this is why I don't think WWE, obviously their streaming service is already on a service owned by Endeavor. There's already quite a large financial connection there. They're not just going to promote another companies that they don't have stake in, champion and wrestlers, unless there's more to it. But let's jump into this. Vince McMahon might be indicted on criminal charges. There is an ongoing investigation that has been confirmed by Janelle Grant's lawyer. She's saying that Janelle Grant's lawyer is saying that they're pausing the lawsuit while this criminal investigation into all these scandals involving Vince McMahon takes place by the government. Here's the other thing about it. The settlement might be better or the judgment might be better if the result is bad for McMahon. If the result is good for McMahon, it wouldn't be a good thing for this Grant lawsuit, but it looks like with this pause, um, that lawsuit is sadly going to be lingering around a long time. WWE SmackDown's going on. It's just about to end from Albany, New York. The advertised wrestlers. The main event is like Austin Theory versus Tommaso Ciampa. Nia Jax is in action. Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. I mean, I have nothing against them versus Street Profits. Andrade versus Apollo Crews. Only about 7,000 tickets out to a building that holds a lot more than that. Probably closer to 20,000. Believe the Royal Rumble '92 is in Albany. So we're a long way past the WrestleMania week when SmackDowns were hitting all-time gate high. 7,000 is still better than where WWE was before Roman Reigns had his surge in popularity, but we're not in WrestleMania week anymore. The current main roster minimum salary has gone from 250,000 to 350,000 per year. Holy crap. Maybe I might have to get back in the wrestling business, Mark. And while I am in the wrestling business, I make my living reporting on wrestling and interviewing wrestlers. And I'm very thankful to that. Thank you, God. Appreciate it. And thank you to the fans. Back to the news, but that's crazy amounts. 350 minimum salary for a year. That's the best thing about AEW. They've boosted the salaries up so much. Becky Lynch's contract expires in 1 hour. I would not say no. I know guys like Tom Pritchard and John Paz. They talked about it on their podcast. They don't think Becky Lynch would go to AEW, but Sasha Banks just made 4.5 million a year there. Let me look up right now as we are live and in living color here. Becky Lynch WWE salary. Let's see what it is. She's making 3.1 million a year now. Her estimated net worth 7 million. This is according to what's Bet's okay, so Becky Lynch makes 3.1 million. Seth Rollins just re-signed as well. Seth Rollins re-signed at this time in 2023 he was making 3 million. So he's probably re-signed for more. But Becky Lynch, if she was only making 3.1 million, she's more popular than Sasha Banks, and Sasha Banks is making 4.5 million in AEW. Not to mention, they just gave Becky Lynch a title run, and hardly anyone like Raw. I think did a 0.55 rating this week. Hardly anyone even watched her lose the title. So she'd be going into AEW very strong. So I wouldn't. And again, if she's saying she wants to take time off, well, in AEW they didn't even use Sasha Banks. I think she was supposedly signed or somewhere. It started like early this year, so it was months before Sasha Banks even had her first match, and she's hardly been on every show. So Becky Lynch could take an unpaid leave in WWE or go to AEW, come in with a big bang, get the wrestling world talking about her, and make more money than she'd probably make in WWE if AEW wants her enough, and work hardly at all. The bad part about it, she'd be in a brand that has a bad stink on it right now. But the good thing about the brand is everyone in it is making a fortune for barely doing anything. Other than Tony Khan, he's actually losing money on it for doing the most in the company. By the way, it came out this week. I mean, it's funny because when I interviewed Missy Hyatt the first time, she told me she got a call from Jim Ross, and it came out this week. In recent years, they had a relationship, which I will not comment on other than that's one sex tape I do not want to see under any circumstances. But I like both of them. I just don't want to see their sex tape. Can't hold that against me. And Jim Ross is one of these guys making a fortune in AEW. He's having bad health issues as he seems to have been having bad health issues for a long time now. But he's making a fortune in AEW. His first contract, which I think was a 5-year contract, was the highest contract ever given to an announcer. What they re-signed him for recently, I don't know, but the guy has got to be absolutely loaded. He's always had good positions in wrestling as well. I jumped to AEW, didn't even finish the WWE news. Natalya's contract also expired. She has not re-signed. There's another one they've been having on the lower shows like NXT. Maybe an offer they could make someone like Natalya is, hey, we're buying TNA. You could be one of the stars in TNA. Because let's face it, Natalya, I'm proud that I was trained with her in the dungeon. I've known her a very long time. I've known her since Mat Rats, since 2001. Although haven't seen her since I crossed paths with her when I was doing security at the WWE show in I think 2014. So I haven't seen her in 10 years. But she's one of the most accomplished divas of all time. She could probably get a very good contract in AEW and be a top star in AEW, where let's face it, Rhea Ripley is the top female star in WWE. And Nia Jax, I mean, she's related to The Rock. She's getting a massive push right now. Natalya might make more money and get a better push in AEW. Also, AEW is going to Calgary. They do not have a good pre-sale. They have it just over Matthew. I could probably I know, sorry to digress into this, but I believe TJ and Natty have known each other since they were young, as TJ was uh, always hanging out at the Hard House, as he was friends with Ted. And I think he got into wrestling through his friendship with Ted. From what I recall them telling me, I used to be friends with TJ too. I still am friends with him. I just haven't seen him forever. But yeah, so they had a relationship forever since at least 2001. They were going out, and they were Natalia, I think, is 1 year older than me, so she would have been 17 or 18, or no, she would have been 18 at that time. So they've likely only ever been together. Yeah, I don't think they went to the same high school. I think TJ's closer to Ted's age, but they could have. They could have. I really don't know. They would have known each other since at least high school age, though. TJ was around that house since he was. There's a W. TJ had there was a kids WWE match in Vancouver sometime around '96 that TJ, Harry, and Ted were in with Ted's brother that passed away, Matthew Annis. That was supposedly the best kid out of all of them, supposedly. Had a flesh-eating disease. Terrible situation. But yes, I would say they've only probably been with each other. That would be my guess. That would be I would bet money on it. And they're great for each other. Okay, so that was quite a distraction. The bottom line is Natalia's 42 now. She could get a very large chunk of money for going to AEW and be used better. And WWE's coming to Calgary, the Saddle Dome, next month. Well, we're almost in June. They're coming to Calgary Stampede Week. They only got 2,000 tickets sold, just over 2,000, 18,000 seat arena, where the corral right beside that arena holds 5,000. So they could have gone to the friggin' corral with the pre-sale that they have now. So getting Natalia and then putting Natalia on local media would really boost that show. I would aggressively try and hire both Natalia and Becky Lynch if I were AEW. I would fire a ridiculous amount of people, and not to be an asshole just because they're not being used. and they're better off while the wrestling industry as a whole is better off having guys that are semi-stars rather than not being used, having them on the indies, making the indies hotter because the indies are not hot right now overall. The indies could use a buzz again. Anyways, I'll shut up. Let's get back to the news. Ricochet's contract is almost up too. He's expected to resign. Um, he's good friends with Will Ospreay, but like honestly, Will Ospreay, whatever they're paying him, he hasn't boosted business at all. He's not boosted business at all. Business has actually gone down. Normal people don't care about acrobatics. Oh, you've seen like honestly, you've seen the flip or you've seen one of these flippy moves that you could never use in a real fight. A lot of people will just look at it like me and be like a Canadian destroyer type move. I just look at that and I'm like, oh my God, that looks so fake. I don't look at it like, oh wow, what great athletes they must be to pull that off. I look at it as there's two guys that have never been in a real fight. If they think that's gonna work, I like more gritty, realistic wrestling than flippity doodah stuff. I know people like it, but look at the ratings and attendance since they spent all that money on Osprey. Raw, the highest grossing Raw of all time was the Raw with The Rock after WrestleMania. April the 8th, it did $2,243,000. Wow. The King and Queen of the Ring tournament are, sorry, had about eight. Sorry, the SmackDown before the King and Queen of the Ring tournament had about 8,000. There's no legitimate way to know how many were at the actual pay-per-view. The Backlash show had 100,000 searches. Pay-per-view shows usually do 200,000 consistently. So the Backlash show from France did 100,000 less. And King and Queen of the Ring did not even crack the top 20,000 searches the day of the show, and it was not a big day for listings. So they would estimate they only had about 20,000 searches for King and Queen of the Ring. Not a lot of people interested. So I think a lot of that had to do with nobody thought Logan Paul was going to beat Cody Rhodes, and nobody cared about the King and Queen of the Ring. Raw did a very low rating with Gunther, and the Gunther segment on Raw was the lowest rated segment, which shows you that they jobbed Gunther to Sami Zayn after pushing him to the moon and making him so strong. They really killed him with that. People just don't care. Like, I know that he's got his fans, but most people like me are like, well, he lost to this little guy that doesn't even look like he works out. Why are we supposed to take him seriously as a contender again? And to me, honestly, Gunther's too skinny. I I I would say he's one of the better WWE wrestlers in the new crop, 100%. I'm not hating on him. I just would like to see him a little. To me, he looks skinny with, as an amateur wrestler, I'm like, he's got skinny legs, double leg, double leg, double leg. Like just that's just my natural amateur wrestler thinking. Guys with skinny legs like that, you could just take down so easily. He's not menacing looking to me, but he has a good character, and his style is good. I just don't think he's over as much since he dropped to Sami Zayn. AEW Collision in Los Angeles, including comps, had about 3,000 last week. Dynamite and Rampage in LA. The Kia Forum, no Ronda Rousey appearance this time. 5,600, including comped. Double or Nothing had 1,500 comp tickets and 7,500 paid. The show went 5 hours and 40 minutes. It was not taken, according to the Wrestling Observer, as well as the most of the latest pay-per-views. Adam Copeland Edge got seriously hurt from jumping off the top of the cage at 50 and breaking his tibia. It's gonna be a while before Adam Cole is cleared to return. MJF did a big return promo that was like 20 minutes and apparently lost a lot of steam being so long. Mercedes Moné said in an interview this week she had been cleared to wrestle for months, but it was Tony Khan's decision not to have her wrestle for this long. Jack Swagger, Jake Hager, 42, who recently said he would smoke weed with Tony Khan. It's a clip right here on the Hannibal TV. He was released this week. He hadn't been used in forever. Arn Anderson was released. There's a lot of rumors he's going to be managing Cody Rhodes in WWE. Mark Henry, who hadn't been used in forever, was also released. Apparently, AEW is looking to add even more. Here's one problem with AEW that I see. Tony Khan seems to have the idea that more is better. Let's just hire everyone, have this huge roster. More is better. Let's get more TV shows. More is better. Why not make Rampage and Collision good? No one even likes Rampage. They don't see it as cool. No one even frickin' watches Ring of Honor, and people leave. And you're talking about wanting more shows. All you do more is just more watered down. Why don't you focus on having a few shows, making them good, using the guys you have to the best of their potential, including the legends. And if people aren't over, which I went through the AEW roster a few days ago, there's way more not over than are over. And that's not me being a dick. I was being people know this. I was being as nice as I could in that roster review. Like I was just being honest. There's way more not over people in AEW than over. Adding another show is not going to do anything. It's not, because get Rampage over. Anyways, I guess adding another show will give them more money, but money is not always the solution. ECW did pretty well on a very tight budget. When WWE was almost going out of business at one point and had to dump Bret Hart's contract, at that point in time when they were close to going out of business, they actually had one of the most entertaining periods where they made a ton of new stars and the show got good. They went from TL Hopper, the Goon, the Jim Cornette era of booking, Freddie Joe Floyd, Alex Porto, all these crappy wrestlers. Tracy Smothers was good, but Freddie Joe Floyd was a bad gimmick. Uh, to the Attitude Era. So more is not better. When things get bad and things get tight, that's when you can get the most creative. And plus, who has the time? Okay, so they got what? Collision's 2 hours, Dynamite's 2 hours, Rampage. I don't know if it's one or two. Plus, they got Ring of Honor. So let's say they got 5 hours of TV a week. 5 hours. Most wrestling fans also watch WWE. Most watch both. There's even the ones that say they're pure AEW still watch some WWE. There's only so much wrestling people can watch in a week. So adding another show will only continue to decimate your Dynamite ratings, but whatever. He's the son of a billionaire. He can do whatever the hell he wants. But last year they lost 34 million. So obviously you can't call him a booker of the year when they're in the red. Ricky Starks, who has not wrestled in months, has his first match in months for an independent show. Big Time Wrestling in Newark, California tonight. Another guy AEW is paying and not using. I know nothing about him other than he was Big Bill's partner. Although he was publicly complaining about not being used, I do think that the people that publicly complain, like Rusev, and maybe it's because he Stark. I do agree with Tony Khan. I'd be and Takashita, one of the worst names in professional wrestling. Come up with better names. Everybody has their real names. Like, come up with easier names and better names. That's another thing with AEW when we were going through the roster. There's so many names that people like have a hard time remembering. Takashita, people sure remember, but it's because it sounds like something else. But he's publicly complaining. All the publicly complaining people, just fire him. Fire him. Remember when what's his face? That guy in WWE, that low card guy in WWE kept complaining. He's now in Impact. I don't even remember his name. But he got his wish. He eventually got released and he complained when he was released. So just enjoy the checks while you have them. Oh, Mustafa Ali. He had publicly asked for his release. How do you like those Impact paychecks, Mustafa Ali? How do you like them? How do you like the indie scene when you don't even know if you're going to get paid or not? 'Cause there's so many shady promoters and the indie scene isn't even not hot right now. But let's get, and by the way, he's done nothing really much relevant since leaving WWE that I would consider relevant. He has wrestled for New Japan and Impact, but he's hardly been making waves. And that's just the truth. Sorry to say it. Collision June 8th in Iowa only has 1,200 tickets out. Collision June 20th in Allentown, Pennsylvania, where one scene from my movie has been filmed. 1,600 tickets out. That's a small building. Calgary, including comps, July 10th, 2,800. Oh no, 2,649, including comps. This is the 18,000 seat Calgary Saddle Dome in the historic wrestling city of Calgary. Yeah, Tony Khan, I would get on that Natalya deal. Get her. I don't know if Bret Hart's under a WWE Legends deal or not, but get Natalya involved somehow. New Japan, speaking of business being down, their subscriptions have gone down $40,000. Sorry, 40,000 since 2023. They went from 140,000 to 100,000. New Japan less popular than ever.